Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Northern Showcase. We look forward to spending the next hour with you. I'm Penny Olorenshaw, a former stage manager, now a Webflow developer in Trenton, Ontario, and I handle communications for No Code North.
Hi, I'm Maggie Monser. I'm a Webflow developer based in Toronto with a background in film and television. In our No Code North group, I take care of our designs and our gather space.
And I'm Jeremy LaRue, a low-code and no-code developer from Vancouver. And on the No Code North team, I'm the resident automations guy and the runner of the streams.
Our mission at No Code North is twofold. First, to build a community of Canadian Webflowers and no-code enthusiasts, and second, to showcase Canadian talent to the rest of the world. We host workshops, demos, and now panel discussions on Fridays at noon Eastern in the Lodge, our gather space. And once a month, we host the Northern Showcase here on our YouTube channel.
So let's take a look at who's out there in the YouTube verse. Hi, Dale and X-Adam and Patrick and whoever else is out there. Welcome. If you have any questions for our guests, please put them in the chat and we'll either ask them during the interview or at the end in a Q&A session.
So, Maria and Manila and Armando Ascione, I probably said it wrong, I'm sorry, Armando, are the founders of Higher Ground Studio, a boutique Webflow agency based in Toronto and serving both local and international clients. They help founders, startups, and small and medium businesses, redefine their online presence to achieve greater success. Oh my God, I'm sorry, guys. But their pre-pandemic lives were quite different. And today we'll learn about their journey to an in-demand web design and development studio. Please help us welcome Maria and Armando.
Hey, Maria and Armando.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having us here. So excited to chat.
Yeah, we're really glad to have you with us. We've gotten to know you a bit in person, which is what's great about being able to finally get together in at events, and it's great to finally get a chance to introduce you to the rest of the Webflow world. So welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, like your business is at such an interesting stage of growth right now, like this exciting scaling up that we're really looking forward to talking to you about that.
I think we've seen so much from you in the last year or so as you've really reached this point of growth that we're thrilled.
Yeah, it's definitely been a few years and can't believe it, right? Like time really flies, especially when you're busy, and then next thing you know, another year passed, and we're just excited to see what's always next.
Yeah, as we say, it's been a roller coaster, up and down, up and down.
Yeah, that's the
now
job.
we're going up, which is great, but we might need some advice to keep going up.
Well, hopefully any going down will be very shallow and then there'll be more ups again. All right. Cool. Anybody else want to say anything before we head right into the interview?
No, let's pop in.
All right. Okay. So probably easiest to just start by having you tell us a bit about each of your backgrounds, where you're from, and how you met, because I can tell from your accents or your voices that you're not from the same place originally. So tell us more about that.
My background before Webflow, I actually started as a freelance graphic designer around 9 years ago. So I feel like design has always been a constant in my life. So I went to school for a bachelor's in technology, did that for 2 years, where I learned like foundations in layout typography, took a few courses in HTML and CSS. But then I found out that the program was actually more focused on printing, at least in the third and fourth year. So from there, I decided to switch careers or, go into a different school because I wanted to travel more. And so that's when I started going to school for a business degree in hospitality. And during those years, I decided to take a break from design, focus on school. And that's how I met this guy. It was through my internships. My internship was on a 5-star cruise line. And most of my career journey really started off in design first, and then I switched to hospitality and back in it again.
All right. So hi, everyone. my name is Armando. I'm from Italy, as you might hear from my accent. And I've been in Canada since the past 4 or 5 years. So I left Italy for 15 years. I traveled around the world. I lived in 7 countries, and I used to work as bartender mixologist up to become a bar manager. So I've been traveling around the world a little bit, as I said, and then I settled down in Canada. That's when I met Maria on a cruise ship. So the last year of my hospitality career, I was working on a cruise line, but that's where we met. And then I decided to move to Canada just to stay close to Maria. And then we started our next career.
Excellent. Excellent. So, what's it like working on a cruise ship? I've known a few people who have done cruise ships, but I'd love to hear your experience. Most of the people that I've met have been more on the theatrical side and the performance side, as opposed to that sort of hospitality side. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what that's like.
Yeah, I would say first, the crew members in the entertainment side probably had the best life,
That's so true.
Like for us, we were on our feet constantly, like 10 to 14 hours every single day, and our contracts were usually like the standard was to be on board for 4 months, so literally like 7 days a week, no breaks until you finish your contract for 4 months.
Yeah, it was pretty tough.
Yeah, you had he had a tougher job than me actually because he was a supervisor.
Yeah, I had a tougher job. I mean, I was a mixology outlet supervisor, so I was in charge of the entire floor. Let's say, like, I had 100 guests, so I had to look after all 100 guests. Like, I had 5-6 servers under me, so I had to manage these servers to make sure that every guest was happy on board.
Right. And are cruise guests more difficult than other guests in other places? Are they very picky, or are they just like really just happy to be out on the ocean?
Yeah, that's an interesting.
Well, you might find some picky ones too.
Yeah.
An example, I can tell that I made a cocktail with olives. One guest complained the olives were too small, so they wanted to have bigger olives.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, that happens. Yeah.
But
So
it was, like the passengers were quite friendly, and I think that's also what I enjoyed about working on cruise ships.
It was a great experience, but I wouldn't do it again. Once now.
No. Yeah, exactly. Well, then you did it for a number of years, so it's not like yeah, exactly. And Maria, what was it exactly you were doing on the ship?
Oh, right. Yeah. I was a bar waiter. So that was my internship.
Okay.
And then, my plan was it was to start in the food and beverage department and then go into guest services more in like the hotel aspect of cruise lines. So, yeah, that was pretty much how I started on cruises.
All right. Excellent. And where were you cruising? What was the routes that you went on?
So my first contract started in Japan, and then we crossed the international date line. And then from there, it was constantly between Canada and Alaska. That's actually where we met. We met in our first contract, but then we got closer in my second contract. So that was the first one. And then the second one was in the Mediterranean. So I think I docked in Barcelona. And then there was like sailing around France, mainly Italy as well.
Malta, Greece. Yeah, I did those with the European cruise line, but as well as Alaska and then Australia and New Zealand.
Right. And when you're on those cruise ships, do you get a chance to actually see and get off the boat and see anything at all from time to time?
Yeah, good question. So the ship does dock on some places, and mainly they dock like, let's say, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So our shift will start always around 12 noon or 1 p.m.
Right.
So will you have time like in the morning, like 2-3 hours, if you want to get out of the ship, you can do it. Feel free. You can go anywhere you want as long as you're back on time for your shift.
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
I remember I was even able to do some hiking in Alaska. It was lots of fun. So 3 hours, it sounds short, but you can still do a lot in 3 hours. So it was nice on that side.
Yeah, absolutely. Dale says it sounds like a lot of work, but also quite the adventure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then sometimes we would also have those cruise ship alarms where it would cut into our breaks. So sometimes our breaks are supposed to be 1 hour, but sometimes, like, I'm just being transparent about the life on board, really. Sometimes it's like only half an hour, and then you're back on the floor for another 7 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a lot. That's a lot. Before we get into things further, Erica's wondering, does Maria speak Italian?
Great question, Eric. Thank you.
Un poco.
There you are. Un
I'm
po'.
doing my best. So actually, that's why we're planning to stay in Italy for almost a year. I want to improve my Italian, but every time we visit Italy, I do sense that being immersed in the culture and being around lots of Italians, of course, hearing them converse in Italian has been helping me a lot over the years. So I was just saying poco, like just a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to have a conversation after you get back. I also speak un poco.
Un poco.
Okay. All right. So, Maria, you had a little bit of experience, obviously, with HTML, CSS. You mentioned that you sort of learned very early on, but what got you guys into web design and development, and how did that transition get started, and how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, it was definitely something we didn't expect at all. I've always known that I wanted to get back into design despite going to school for a bit and putting that on pause. But when we moved to Australia and did our working holiday visa, the pandemic happened and everything shut down. I was working in the Sydney Opera House at the time, and I was like, wow, like, this is such a great place to work. I hope I can stay. We were actually planning to build a life in Australia at some point or considering it, but then the pandemic happened. So we moved back to Canada. We had all this time with all the lockdowns and everything, and I wanted to start picking up design again. And that's when I started looking into user experience design. And then that led to starting an Instagram account where I connected with lots of designers. And from there, I discovered Flex Academy and Ron Segal's posts about Webflow. And that's how I got started. I was like, no way I can build a website with zero code. So I just started learning it. And then, of course, like I live with Armando, so I'm telling him about my day and whatever I learned.
Yeah. So personally for me, I mean, as Maria mentioned, we were in Australia, pandemic happened, so we had to leave the country. I decided to come to Canada rather than Italy. Because at that time was worse. The situation was pretty worse in Italy. So I came to Canada. I didn't have any experience in tech at all. So I just started learning myself HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, some basic stuff, watching YouTube, different courses on CodeMap as well, Free Codecamp. So different software tools online where you can learn coding. And then eventually we found out about Webflow, and that's where I started to dive into Webflow. Instead of like coding websites from scratch, HTML and CSS will take ages and time. I had Webflow is like visual platform, drag and drop tool, nice and easy. As long as you know the backend, the basics as HTML and CSS, you can use Webflow and move on.
Yeah. One last thing I wanted to mention was because Penny, you were asking about how I started learning with HTML and CSS. To be honest, like when I was learning that in class, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so like the tiniest change I made kind of messed up everything, and I remember being so frustrated with it. So I was like, I find it ironic, basically, that I ended up back into coding and web design because my first experience with it, I thought it was like really amazing because I got to build my first website. But I was like, oh, also remember the days when it was hard. It was very technical for me to learn, and yeah.
And it is. I remember trying to figure most of it out from books and understand, what it was they were even talking about. So I completely understand that. So, Maria, you're sort of back into design, and Armando, you're learning web development, and you're both kind of getting into Webflow. Why did you decide to start your own agency as opposed to trying to find work with other agencies, or what was the impetus behind your own business?
Yeah, well, I think everything started when the pandemic was still around, so we couldn't look for a job or go to an office and work there. So we just came up, say, okay, let's do something from home. Also, because something that I wanna mention is that I didn't know what was freelancing before. I didn't know what was like working from home for your own business, having your own business.
Ah,
So for
right.
me, the idea of working for ourselves, I don't need to go to an office and tell someone telling me, do this, do that, be here at this time, and so on. It was just great. I was like, wow, I can't believe it. This is something that can happen. So we just focused on that, and we kept going.
Yeah, I would say in the beginning, our goal was to start working in-house at an agency or a company. But of course, like with zero experience, we had to do something about it. So that's where we started with promoting ourselves online, telling our friends and family. And so from there, that's how we got our first opportunity, which was from a good friend of ours that we met on the cruise ship. So his father
Oh,
was
yeah.
looking to build a website, and we thought, hey, like, why don't we work together on this project? Let's see how our first collaboration goes. It was very fun. And so our idea was, let's just build experience, then we'll build our portfolio, and then hopefully at that point we can start applying to companies, agencies. But I guess with where things just kept going, we were just very excited with how things were developing with our studio. And
the fact that to be able to launch a website live, functional, that is working, the client is happy, was just great. They gave us so much reassurance, and that's how we continue.
Yeah. And then I guess like last thing would be what we really loved about starting out was having this really close relationship with our clients. And sometimes like that's something I ask myself, like if we were in-house or something, would we have the same, type of collaboration or relationship with other clients?
Right. And possibly not, because I mean, unless you're actually the account manager working directly with the client, I would think that, sort of on that design and building side, you might not have as much direct interaction.
Mm-hmm. And impact. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What is it about working directly with the clients that you like most? What's the
Well, I suppose you can say it's coming from our background in the food and beverage industry. Like we love to talk to people. We love hearing about their stories and just making sure that they have a really great experience. So that's kind of what
like
really
offering a nice service, for someone that appreciates it. But something else that I also love working with clients is because we don't focus on one industry. I'm getting to learn so many industries that I didn't know before. I wasn't aware of, how, like, let's say, construction works. But now, because we work with CEO and co-founders, I'm getting to know all these other industries as well.
Yeah, that's probably one of the things that I've enjoyed most about doing this kind of work. Somebody I once said, why don't you, sort of choose a niche and, just build real estate websites or something? And I just thought, I can't imagine anything more uninteresting than to build the same site over and over and over. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also ask ourselves that too. Maybe one day, like for example, if you look at our portfolio, majority of our projects are in B2B SaaS. So we work with a lot of VCs and startups and founders. But at the same time, we still love to keep the work interesting. Like we're working with Visit Caledon, we're helping them out with their tourism website, like adding lots of functionalities, creating an award-winning website, and all those fun things. So yeah, we just like to be versatile with just working on exciting projects.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so you've already said you answered my next question, which was how did you find your first clients? And that's that's such a great way for people to sort of expand from, okay, I'm learning this thing. It's like find somebody who is willing to give you their trust to build that website. What was that like that first time you were building a site? Like, were you in the end happy with what you created for that client, and were they happy? And what was
Yeah,
that process that first time?
it was a really enjoyable experience, I would say. I guess maybe it's because it was a very close friend of ours, and he was very happy. He gave us like our very first testimonial as well, and he also came back to us 2 years later to build out his own website because he started a business too. So It was really amazing because at the time, like when we first started, we were offering branding as well, but then we decided to just like focus only on Webflow and would rather outsource branding. But yeah.
Yeah, no, for me personally, it was exciting, but I was also kind of, let's say, worried a little bit or scared, just because it was my first time
That's true,
developing in
yeah.
Webflow. So I had to make sure that I know how to use all the elements, so how to build the website properly. But besides build the website, it's also how to connect the domain. I didn't know nothing about domain, DNS records, all that stuff. I was like, okay, now the website is built. What do we do next? We need to connect it
Right.
to the domain.
That's
So
so true. Okay, I completely missed the part too of like it was definitely not sunshine and rainbows. It was, of course, like our first time doing this, so we were figuring out a lot of things for the first time, and
Right.
like thankfully we were happy with how we collaborated the first time. Like, okay, let's see how it keeps going. But you know, as even today, you know, we're still constantly learning so many new things, and I think that's what I really love about this whole journey.
Right. And how are clients finding you now that you're established and whatnot? What's the best source of clients for you?
Yeah, best source of clients would definitely be word of mouth and
Mhm.
referrals.
Okay. Good. Well,
yeah,
that go
Yeah,
ahead, Armando.
yeah. Mostly, I was saying it's most word of mouth, if not on social medias as well. We try to be active on social medias. Mostly Maria, she's the social media manager of the business, so
I'm
Mhm.
like everything.
she does a lot. So yeah, on social medias as well. Obviously, putting yourself out there, showing what you're doing for other businesses. You know,
Right.
other business can see your work and they might reach out to you as well.
Yeah, I
Right.
although I say it's like word of mouth and referrals, the thing is though, I feel like if it wasn't for us also sharing our work, LinkedIn has been working very well for us. Same with Instagram, more LinkedIn, but maybe Twitter not so much. And but other than that, yeah, social platforms just sharing our work out there. Like for example, there was one time I posted that we were capping our quarter 4 inquiries last year. And then one of our past clients reached out and goes, "Hey, I saw your post on LinkedIn. I just want to see if I can book you for next year." I was like, okay, sure, why not? So
Right.
it's great.
Wonderful. Yeah, good. Excellent. I'm so glad that, you're finding the right platforms to be on too, right? I mean, it's recognizing where people are going to come to you from. And so much of that is about being where your potential clients are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Mhm.
yeah. Okay. So a little comment here from Patrick. I love the idea of working with tourism for towns. And it's funny that you're working with Caledon because that's where I'm from.
Oh my
Nice.
gosh, yeah. Did we did launch
We
the
did launch,
feature,
yeah,
right?
yeah. We
Yeah.
just we just added a map feature on their website.
Uh-huh.
So if you check out their site, you can see the map feature. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
navigate around.
So it's a very cool feature we help them add on. Patrick, if you're ever, just want to spend some time, explore nature, explore Caledon, there's the website now. It's more interactive and yeah,
Yeah.
I think we would actually love to visit Caledon at some point too. So we should connect when we do that.
So you built a whole website and you haven't actually even been out to Caledon yet? I love it.
We're like half an hour away. It's just I don't know, 1 hour.
Yeah, and
You see,
we've been working with them for 3 years now. So we're constantly like telling them like, yeah, we'll go there and yeah, we should.
We should. Yeah.
that's funny. Okay, so he has a follow-up. Was that kind of client a referral or something you had to bid on? He's wondering how that kind of process
Very
works to get
yeah.
projects like that.
Very interesting question because I am aware that it's usually kind of like challenging. You would have to bid for a project when it comes to government body projects.
Hmm.
So the senior designer actually found us on LinkedIn. And that was interesting. So we connected. He loved our chat, and then I introduced him to Armando, and we started our first project together. And
Yeah, we started collaborate together on the first phase of the project, and then once the website was up, whenever they wanted to add new functionality, we were just the two of us working on additional functionality.
Right. So that was one where they did the design because they had a designer and then you just built it?
That's right.
That's correct.
Great, excellent. And Patrick says, "I'll take you guys on a bakery tour."
Yes, I love bakeries. Okay, I'll count you to that.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Okay, so um, how do you divide? Well, I think I kind of know how you divide the work. Um, butter tarts. Yes,
Yes,
there's always butter tarts on a bakery tour.
it's a
I'm
must.
assuming that you do eat butter tarts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
I like it.
we're not like allergic to anything or intolerant, but
And you can't live in Canada without eating butter tarts.
yeah,
That's a
it's
law,
a
right?
must.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we also live close to the St. Lawrence market, so they have like the best kinds of like bakeries and food you can find. So take
Yeah.
advantage
Yeah.
of that.
Excellent. Excellent. So I think I know the answer to this, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. How do you divide the work within your agency? Um, Maria, do you do all of the design work? I know you've talked about bringing in outside designers, but or do you do some work within Webflow itself?
I used to do some work in Webflow when we first started out, but with all the capacity and everything, I decided to take more of like a managing director role. Sometimes he does it too. That I think that's the beauty of what we tell our clients with working with us, where we work so closely to each other. Sometimes he ends up responding to the client, sometimes me, but I'm more of like the project manager. And yes, I do the designs. We haven't collaborated with any designers yet, but fingers crossed, this will be the year for that. And yeah, that's it's kind of like quite simple. So more of the project management, social media manager, designer, marketing. Yeah,
Many things. I help.
Right.
I help sometimes
yeah,
too.
for sure.
Uh-huh. Good. Good.
Yeah. And so,
And
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, and then I was saying on my end, I'm focusing mainly on the Webflow development. So on
Mhm.
building the website, just making sure the client's requirements can be achieved in Webflow. And perhaps if we need any third-party tools to integrate into Webflow, just to go above the Webflow functionalities, that's what I'm doing. Searching the right tool to integrate with Webflow, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Right.
Yeah. So sometimes, again, because we're so flexible and we like to help each other out, if he needs to research on something like a tool, or if he needs help with CMS or building it out, I also jump in and help him as well. So just always trying to complement each other and helping each other out.
Right. Right. And who creates the content in the websites? Is it generally the clients, or are they working with outside writers? What's that? Because getting that content is, such a struggle for so many people. I'd love to hear how that works for you.
Yeah, that is definitely something that's a struggle at times with feedback as well, ongoing revisions and edits. So we try to be flexible with that with our clients. But to answer your question, it's usually our clients that does the copywriting. We are working with a copywriter as well. So if they need that additional work involved, I also add our copywriting services with our partner in that into our proposals.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yep. I have to get the lights back on again.
I think you can see what he just did right now. He threw his key across the room, hoping that it would turn the lights back on.
Gotta love motion sensors, right? They're great for
Yeah.
energy saving, but
It's actually you gotta see a real human,
Yeah, you got
and it
to.
goes on.
Anyway.
Is there a particularly memorable project that you've worked on together? And when did you actually start your studio, Higher Ground Studio? When did you actually what year was that?
We started
2021.
3 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Three?
we are in the third year now, almost fourth.
Right.
So
Yeah,
3 years
Almost
ago we
four.
started the business.
yeah. We're entering our
Right.
fourth year this November. We started in 2021 November. Mhm.
And so, is there a particularly memorable project that you will always look back fondly on and say, "Remember when we did that project?"
Wow, yeah. I don't think we ever talked about this, so this is nice.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I would say visit Caledon really because we started working with them when they just started out.
Yeah. No, the thing is, as Maria mentioned already, this is the almost the third year that we work with them. So
Mhm.
they're one of our first client, and the
Right.
fact that they keep coming back to us and expanding the website, so adding more feature on top of what we did initially, that's
Right.
kind of memorable because it's great. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we're always so excited to be working with them. Every meeting with them is always such a blast. That's why I feel like meeting them in person is just way overdue at this point. Like really overdue. But other than that, it's also just seeing how far we've come, and I think that's why that project to me is like very special. I'm also like helping out with the collaborating with the senior designer as well, so it's and if we kind of like think about it, I think the reason why I also love that project is because it's in tourism. We love to travel, and
Oh, yeah.
just knowing that we're helping people improve that experience and giving people more reasons to visit Caledon is great.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite a coup actually to get a project like that sort of very early on in your career, I think.
True.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, all right. So one of the things that Armando, I'm sure you have to deal with is the fact that Webflow keeps adding new features and whatnot. Are there any? How do you stay up to date on both things happening in Webflow, but also web web development in general and the direction of the internet?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Webflow, I love Webflow. That's true. They're releasing so many features. Every week there is something new coming up, which is great. I appreciate that because at the end of the day, they make our work easier and easier. So I remember, for example, 2 years ago, I had to use some custom code for functionality. Nowadays, I don't have to use it anymore because that functionality is part of Webflow. So that's great. The way I keep updating myself is just following the Webflow updates. They do like monthly updates with Aaron, I think, just talking about new features as well as the community on Twitter or LinkedIn. There's like great folks as well as No Code North as well. They keep updates with Webflow. So this is how I'm being updates with all the new features. But something that I want to say is Webflow, let's say, has 100 features, but I don't use all the 100 features. So,
Right.
for instance, I actually saw one post from someone on LinkedIn saying, "Yes, Webflow is releasing these features today, but do you actually need it? Do you use in your stack in your build?"
Mm,
So, not every single thing at the end of the day we gotta use in Webflow. It depends on what you work on. Sometimes for
right.
one project you might need one feature, for another project you need a different feature, but it does mean that you always need the same features for every single project.
So it doesn't mean that you need to necessarily drop everything when they bring something new out and go figure out how it works and how to use it.
Yeah, that's correct. For example, like maybe in the past couple of months, they release a new feature. I'm not using them, but I'm still able to build websites. So I don't depend on these new features.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. X Adam is asking, do you guys use any frameworks for Webflow?
Yeah, well, framework, yeah, plenty pretty much. Like I'd use the FinSuite library. So that's
Mm-hmm.
for classes.
Right.
And then I do use Relium sometimes, like they have pre-built components for Webflow. They're also
Mm-hmm.
scalable and responsive. So sometimes I do use those components also because some of them have interactions applied to it already. So, it just saves time. That's what you can use. And then I'm getting familiar with mostly no-code tools like JetBoost, Airtable, Zapier, Make, Integromat, all those tools. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, we don't just build static website and very easy. We do integrate third-party function features into Webflow.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about that sort of integrating other third-party
Uh,
tools in. What kind of work are you doing with that?
yeah, for example, talking about Caledon, that's something talking about the same project, but something that we just mentioned is we built the map functionality. So the map was built using Webflow, FinSuite attributes, and Mapbox and JetBoost. It's actually four tools in one.
Right.
So the
Right.
way, I would set up, essentially, you just need to have an account in Mapbox. Then from Mapbox, you use JetBoost to connect the Webflow CMS with Mapbox. Connected the CMS in Mapbox, you can basically show a list of, let's say, cities on a map. So that's the function that we're doing. And then sometimes, we also apply custom code thanks to
like Prosper Health.
Prosper, yeah. Well, yeah, sorry. Talk about this one. We use custom code. So thanks to ChatGPT, we do have some custom features that, because I'm not a coder, I'm no code, low code developer. So I do rely on AI tools. So perhaps some colleagues, they know like more coding. And that's their own integrating in Webflow essentially. So I was using the AI tool to create a filtering system in Webflow using JetBoost. So they're all connected.
Excellent. And are there any Webflow apps that you're using? I mean, you've mentioned JetBoost, you've mentioned FinSuite, but are there any other Webflow apps that you've started using that you're finding really valuable?
I've tried a few. Well, I do use the member stack app as well. Then there is the web-based like SVG app, I think. There's a background app as well. Then there is a Slater app. That's something that I came across recently. I actually saw a streaming from Aaron with, I think her name is Cassidy, if I'm not wrong, showing how the GIS app works in Webflow. And essentially they were using Slater app as to add the custom code. So instead of using the project settings in Webflow or the embed element in Webflow, you can use this app where you can save all your custom code in it, which is it's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's certainly, once people figured out how it worked and got going, it's just suddenly exploded that everybody's just realized how helpful Slater is for
Yeah, I think that's what's so exciting about not even just seeing the community evolve, but all the different tools and resources that are constantly expanding over time. Armando and I always say how crazy it is, how much things have evolved in the last 3 years since we started learning Webflow. And, it's just really exciting to see that it's just getting started, really.
It's true. It has changed. I've been using it about 5 years, and really since the pandemic, the 4 years since then, it's just incredible how quickly it's changed. What do you think sets your agency apart from other agencies? There's a growing group of good Webflow agencies. So what makes Higher Ground different, special, besides the two of you, obviously?
Oh, okay. Well, that was actually the superpower I was going to mention.
Sorry.
Oh, good. Yeah. So I guess what we like to tell our clients is, working with us, you can expect to make decisions more quickly because we're a micro agency. Our clients work directly with us. And this is also common feedback we get from our clients who are looking for partners. I like to ask our potential partners and clients, like, what do they look for in a partner or web design agency? And oftentimes they say, we like working with smaller teams because they tend to be like more flexible. So I think that's what helps us stand out. And I always say we work so closely to each other and iterating again what I mentioned earlier about always helping each other out. We're very flexible in that sense.
Yeah. Something to add, that's exactly what Maria just said, that we work together closely. So we are a business partner, but also partner in life. That means that, between design and development, there are not many delays just because she's next room, I'm here. So I'm just going to ask Maria, what should I do here? Or what's happening? You can just connect together and go over the build together as well.
Right.
So simplify a lot for a client,
Yeah. Do you ever have, because working with your partner can be a little tricky, do you guys ever have differences of opinion either around, design or development or client handling?
Yeah. Okay. So actually, one thing is we used to work together actually on a cruise ship.
Oh, yeah.
So that time we did one contract together. We were working in the same outlets and same bar. I was the supervisor and Maria was my server. So we're already
Sorry, I'm going to get you to respond. To say that again. I'm not sure if it's my connection or yours, but I'm missing part of what you're saying. So can you
sure.
just start that again?
Yes, absolutely. So I said that Maria and I, we were working together already before starting the tech career. So we were working hospitality on the cruise ship. That's where I was the supervisor in outlet and Maria was my server. So we were already working together, trying collaborating together. But in talking about the business nowadays, we do have different opinions sometimes, which is normal, different mindset. But I think that also helps because rather than just always be okay with one thing, we have different ideas, so we can also confront each other and make sure which one of the two makes more sense at the end of the day. So that's one.
Right.
I mean, of course, it's I think that's what we always like keep in mind when we have different opinions is that we're not always supposed to be aligned on everything, right? Like when you start a business partnership as well, what you're not looking to get is someone like two people who think the same exact way. It's also good to work with someone who either complements your skills, maybe I definitely learn a lot from Armando on the technical side, and that's something that I have to consider when I'm designing and vice versa. So absolutely, definitely we have different opinions many times and also with the direction of the business, but we always, just have a conversation about it and finding ways to make it work.
And what do you enjoy most about working together? What
Good question.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's we get to just be around each other a lot. I know that it's not often like not many partners kind of they like to have their own space, but I mean personally I really like that I get to build our schedule together. We could go on vacation whenever, and also just
It's something that I also like. It's essentially we start projects from the beginning together and we complete the project together. So we jump on a first call with the client together. We ask the requirements, we understand what they want. Once we finish the call, then we sit together and we are like, okay, let's go over it. Let's see, is this what you understood? Is that what she understood? And then once we get started on our project, Maria makes the design, but the good thing is that she calls me sometimes asking, okay, what do you think? Is this design good for Webflow? Can we do this in Webflow? Before continuing her work, share her work with the clients, and then comes to me, and I'm like, oh, maybe we need to change this now. It's not possible. So before we arrive to that point, we actually catch up together and we talk about it together.
Yeah.
Right.
And I suppose it's also winning projects together. So I just think overall it's the rewarding part of it as a couple and as partners in a business. So that's always the really exciting thing about it.
Yeah. Dale says, working to the strength of each other. That is so important in a small agency. Right?
Mhm.
Sort of,
Absolutely.
It is that.
yeah, supporting each other and each other's strengths.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like if I'm under like lots of work, Armando's always like willing to help me out on that and vice versa. So I think that's also something to.
Sometimes if she has too much work, I'm the one cooking lunch and dinner.
Yeah. So who does sort of handle does one of you, do you share, the rest of your lives together sort of on an equal basis? Or
Yeah, we actually do. Yeah, he enjoys
Yeah.
cooking more, but usually we kind of we really like to plan our like weeks or days sometimes. So we would sit down every Sunday or Saturday and go like, okay, this is what we need for groceries. This is what we need to cook throughout the week. So I will do lunch, he will do dinner, vice versa, and.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work out as planned, and then sometimes we end up maybe I would do both lunch and dinner. It really depends on how busy both of us are, but
yeah, pretty much we help each other. So if I need help, I have so much work to do, Maria comes in and helps me, or the other way around.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. So what do you see as the future of web development going forward, and how do you plan? because things are constantly changing. We've seen how much things have changed with Webflow in the last few years. But how do you plan to adapt as systems and technologies change?
Mhm. How I would approach it is being part of a community, and so adapting to that and just having these conversations with other like-minded people who are in the same position as us always helps us understand kind of where the future is headed.
Yeah, for me, yeah, it's pretty much same as Maria, just being in the community. But as you know, as there are new releases every year, the web evolves. We need to be just update ourselves. So we need to go online, search for these resources and learn them. But also nowadays we have AI tools. So instead of searching on Google, you can just go on AI tool and then you can get the explanation, everything that it's coming up pretty much. So
Right.
that's something that we're gonna rely on in the future.
Yeah, essentially leveraging
Yeah.
what kinds of technology we have available to us today, right?
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Can you share any tips for aspiring web designers and developers and Webflow folks?
I would say, be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself. When we first started, it was definitely overwhelming. A lot of the times, I was like, "How am I going to like? Am I having the right documents to prepare contracts, accounting?" I feel like the work itself is exciting, but don't discount or neglect the actual business part of it, because it's always good to prepare that ahead of time. And I think one of the things I'm always grateful for with paying attention on early in our journey was hiring an accountant. Like, we did not hesitate on that. If there's a lot of Canadians here, we all know how tough the CRA is, so they do not allow for any mistakes. And yeah, just really getting the process down as well, just making sure that our communication with our clients is as transparent and clear as possible. And coming from our background in the service industry, we always want to make sure our clients are taken care of. So over communicating essentially has been helpful.
Yeah, for me, tips about Webflow development, especially. So I can say that I didn't have any experience at all before starting development. So what I would suggest to do is try Webflow development, try web development itself. So start always from the basis, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then move into Webflow. Because if you go straight into Webflow but you don't know the basis, you don't go far. You just get frustrated and you say, okay, this is not for me. So start from the basis first. Try. If you have hard time, ask for help. Just don't give up right away. The Webflow community is beautiful. So there is also a Slack channel. If you have any issues or any questions, just throw it there. Ask them. There is people that are willing to help you. You might think, okay, why someone should answer my question? They might be busy with their stuff, but no, there's actually people willing to teach you for free, so you don't have to pay nothing. So just give it a try. Obviously, at the end of the day, you just need to go. If you like it, you keep doing it. If you don't like, okay, you try it.
Yeah,
it's
pivot.
not for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, X Adams says, now I must say you guys need to launch a course, How to Run Webflow Agency Like a Pro.
Oh my.
Sure.
Yeah, courses are a lot of work, and I really admire all of those who do it so well.
No, but definitely it's gonna be we'll add it to our list. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Of
Absolutely.
ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I mean, it's you're still young and early on in your career, so I think there's lots of possibilities in the future for you to sort of branch out.
Mhm.
So, uh, Jeremy, Maggie, do you guys have questions for Maria and Armando?
Yeah, I think maybe I'll start. We chatted about it a bit, but in this new age of AI, we were just wondering, how do you leverage AI to improve your workflow? Like, how do you integrate it?
So I guess since the process usually starts from my side on the content and design, how I typically leverage it is its copywriting abilities. So oftentimes for example, when I started my journey, I would do like placeholder text, like using lorem ipsum, but now I don't use that. depending on what your prompts are, and of course, like that requires like time to learn. I leverage copywriting from AI to help me with those placeholder texts to help our clients generate ideas or using it as a starting point. And I always emphasize saying that AI should just be a starting point, because people can obviously see through what sounds like was made by AI. So that's one of the ways I do it. I also use it to help my emails, but again, as a starting point, or just like grammatical checking and whatnot. Other ways would be, maybe you can add on top.
Yeah,
while I
for me, the
continue.
way I leverage AI nowadays is mostly on custom code functionalities. So because I'm not a coder, again, I learned a little bit of JavaScript, so I can go through a code, but I can actually write it myself. So as long as you give some instructions and of what the functionality you want to achieve, you get the code, try it out. If it doesn't work once, go back again onto AI, ask to swap out a few code or different classes or IDs, and eventually you can get it work. Because I built few projects actually with the help of AI, without reaching out to any third-party person, anyone.
Yeah.
All right.
One more tool I actually wanted to mention is Relume's AI site builder. So that's definitely something we've embedded into our process. Like during my discovery sessions, like clients love it. They're like, wow, like how did we just create this wireframe in seconds? Like, yeah, right? It's awesome. Technology is great. So that's one of the ways we leverage it.
Right. Do you actually show them some of that process, or because I worry that clients kind of go, oh, well, why are you charging me so much if this part's so easy?
Oh, well, yes, but fair enough. Like I do tell them this is just a starting point. Of course, like a wireframe is just a blueprint, just so we can have a reference of this is what the copy can look like, with no images yet, just focusing on the structure. But then, of course, like as we move into high fidelity, adding the branding and whatnot, that's obviously like where my job comes in.
Right. Right.
I've been wondering that too. Do you hide the Relume magic, or do you expose it? And then they're like, oh, this is too easy. But yeah, no, there's much more than that goes into making websites, obviously. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Are there other ways that you're using AI? Do you use it at all for like client communications, or does it like
Sorry?
email or anything? Some of that sort of, when it's a tricky thing to try to figure out how to say something.
Yeah, to be completely transparent, sometimes, of course, there are maybe I would like have a challenge with rewording something. I just want to make sure its tone is nice and friendly. So I would just plug it into AI and ask it to check my tone and see if it's also concise. Because I tend to be like very detail oriented, and I really try to pare it down with my text sometimes. So that's also another way I ask AI to help me out with emails. Like, can you shorten this a bit and make it more concise?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I do the same too. Like when I have to communicate with my clients, with our clients, obviously. Sometimes I check for because I'm not an English native speaker. I always check for my spelling or for grammatical errors. So I do use daily, honestly, like every day.
Yeah.
Still, at the end of the day, I always double check for Maria, obviously, because I don't trust like just an AI machine tool. You never know what comes out. So
I'm not a native English speaker as well, by the way. I was born in the Philippines, but yeah, I try my best.
When did you move?
When I was 5, so that was like 2001, I think, like 20 years ago, a while.
Yeah. Because I moved to Canada. I'm not an English speaker either, but I moved when I was 20. So it's like you can tell the levels here. Like 5-year-old and Armando, I don't know when you moved, but like
like 4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. Like,
yeah, well, the thing is, I left Italy like 15 years ago. So wherever I traveled, I always travel in English colonies. Like I've been in UK for 4 years, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, all around.
That's amazing. So much traveling. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Patrick has a great question here, or kind of another side to what your most nostalgic project, but what kind of project are you hoping for this year or next? Like, what's your kind of dream projects? Is there anything you'd love to work on?
So I guess we didn't really also talk about what our dream projects would be, but it also kind of connects to hospitality again. Like, I think it would be really cool if we did a project in the hotel industry.
Hotel industry, yeah. For me, one project something that I want to work on is definitely more membership websites, so integrating member stock, but also automation websites. So essentially, integrate perhaps even Airtable as database, third-party database tool into Webflow, and then do a workflow through Zapier or Make just to accomplish a functionality. That's something that we would like to dive in.
I would say like also web apps, like web applications for sure. And I think it's because I also have a background in product design. I was freelancing for the software development agency for like almost 3 years. So I learned a lot about product design, and I would really love to leverage those skills and what I've learned in the past few years into our process as well, and working on more complicated projects in Webflow pretty much.
I bet it won't be long. But
and the technology is at the place now where because that's more the world that I live in with web apps and stuff like that. Is like the technology has gotten to this place now where you can do a lot of very powerful things in a low code, no code way, which, you know, when we talk about being low code, no code developers, it's very important because we're, you know, it's more logic, it's more that kind of thing. And so, and having ChatGPT help with the code and everything else, I don't think that's a mystery to anybody. It used to be, for developers anyway, it was all Stack Overflow anyway. Like, nobody has all of this stuff in their head. It just,
absolutely not.
It just doesn't stay there. There's like too much. So yeah, it's as you need it. And so I mean, ChatGPT is incredibly helpful for that kind of thing. And then, but as going back to what you had said before, is like that knowledge of like that base starting point. Like if you start with the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and have an understanding of it, you don't have to be an expert, right? You learn things. And I was wondering, did Webflow help kind of with the learning of the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? Like, you know, using the tool itself, was that able to like strengthen things or give you some kind of ideas with it?
Yeah, I think I can say that it helps me mostly on CSS side. HTML, not much, just because, you know, there is a drag a title, header, paragraph, div block, okay. But the CSS, actually, because you can see the attributes, the code, and then eventually, I did study a little bit CSS, but I wasn't that expert. So even though when I was starting building Webflow, I used to just playing around with all the CSS properties until I got it right. So that definitely helped me a lot on the CSS. JavaScript, not much, because you don't see what's happening in the backend. It's mostly just through the interaction, but you don't see exactly what's happening. Besides just like moving, sizing, rotating, but you don't see the actual code.
Right.
I would also say when I started learning HTML and CSS, I only took like 2 courses, but I think understanding like the verbiage and the language of HTML, CSS also helped me at least feel more familiar when I started learning Webflow. So I thought that was helpful too.
Great. Excellent. So Dale has a comment, which is really lovely. Really great to hear about your experiences and your stories. Very inspirational. Continued success for you both, wherever in the world your efforts lead you.
Oh,
thank you, Dale.
That's
really nice. That's lovely.
I have one last question, if that's okay. Speaking of success, I just want to say congratulations for getting into the Webflow Expert Program this year, obviously. And I'm sure there's lots of people that are going to see this stream that would like to get in. I was wondering if you could give some pointers and share maybe some things not to do, some things to focus on to get into the expert program.
Okay. Well, first thing I would say, watch all the Webflow University courses. watch all of them. They will teach how to use Webflow. And then for the application, yeah, there are 4 exams you need to take on the Webflow website. So go there, take their exams. Once you have the exams, then you can submit your application.
I would say also review the rubric. They're very helpful. So use it as a guideline to help you out on reviewing your builds, and keep it in mind as you get the next opportunity for your project. So if you haven't applied for the program yet, but you have another project coming up, that was our approach to it. So as soon as we started getting projects, although I do think it took us a little bit longer, just because with how busy we've been, and so we finally applied for it. But that was our approach to it, just constantly building the project around preparing ourselves to submit our application for the Webflow program.
Yeah, sorry, something else to add is also ask help. So for example, myself, before applying for the application, I asked a few developers around, how did you do this? How do you do this? Can you show me what have you done? Just, don't be scared to ask for help, because people are out there willing to help you. Then once you feel confident, just do it, submit it.
Lovely.
That's
Excellent.
awesome.
Nice comment from somebody. Great and genuine talk. And I have to agree. I knew, having met you a couple of times, just how much I enjoy, conversing with you, getting to know you. And I knew that you guys would be fabulous guests. Can you tell us a little bit more about how people would find you online? What's the best way for people to reach you?
So we're active on X, although I've been more active on Instagram, and I'm also on LinkedIn.
Yeah, or they can just search for our website, highergroundstudio.ca, and you can find us.
Yeah, our social
Excellent.
there too. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Jeremy, you want to take us out?
And that brings us to the end of our 17th Northern Showcase. 17, wow. We'd like to thank you all for joining us and remind you to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and watch our next Northern Showcase on June 14th with James Wagner and Logan Hawkins of the Bold Bureau. So we're doing another two-person interview. So this was our first one, as I don't know if anybody mentioned it, but it was excellent. And Maggie.
Yeah, that's right. The next one's a double too. I like this format. And join us in the Lodge next Friday, May 31st. Speaking of new format, for the first edition of our new panel discussion format. We'll be talking with Raimar Tirado, Mason Poe, and Nelson Abalos about the highs and lows of building products. You definitely don't want to miss this conversation. It'll be really interesting. So I know there's a few people that are building products in the chat right now. Make sure Virat and the likes. Make sure that you're there next week, as it should be very informative.
Excellent. And that will also be streamed on YouTube at the same time. But if you come into our lodge, and that's open to everybody, then you can ask your questions directly. So visit our website at nocodenorth.com and sign up for our mailing list to receive all of our latest updates. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and join us on Fridays in the lodge. Our lodge hangouts are open to everybody. Boy, when you read a script, you read a script. Anyway, until next time, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.